Hello and welcome to the channel. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through me harvesting this pot that had one potato in it. I believe this pot did not get enough water, like a few other things I'm going to show you later on in this video, but I need to go ahead and clear this out and get ready for fall. So let's get clearing. Here you see I pull out a really tiny potato. This is going to be pretty much all I'm going to find, tiny potatoes. At some point the squirrel was in this bag, so that was a deposit from one of the squirrels. I'm going to go and dump this bag over into this bucket. In the bottom of this bucket I had some perlite that fell on the floor in the shed, so I just sweeped it up into the bucket to be used at a later time, and this is that time. As you can see, the soil is very dry. I let the soil dry out before I decided to go in and harvest it. There doesn't appear to be a whole lot in this pot, but that's okay. I was away from the garden, so this pot didn't get as much love as it should have, and it's time to get ready for fall, so no harm, no foul. Soil was so extremely dry, there were lots of clumps, and I'm just taking a little time to break up these clumps and to see if I can find any more potatoes. As you see here, I found one more potato, so that's a total of 2 tiny potatoes, but that's pretty much it outside of that acorn that I found. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time breaking up these clumps before I add a little bit of amendment. I don't want to put this hard, dry, clumpy soil back in my makeshift homemade grow bag. So as I continue to break this soil up, in just a moment, I will be adding some amendments. As I guessed it, I'm not finding any more potatoes. I don't even see the seed potato, so that must have deteriorated due to lack of water, or I had worms in this pot. I did find one worm that was very lethargic. I think it might be on its way to glory because this pot has been sitting out with no water, as you can tell. Now it's time to get this soil back into my makeshift grow bag that I created out of some weed barrier and some outdoor thread. Don't do what I just did, y'all. Use both hands. This soil is very dry. As I comb through it, I'm looking also to see if I've missed any potatoes. And so far, I haven't missed anything. And since I had some perlite at the bottom of the bag, it is now freely flowing into the very dry soil mixture that I had in this bag, and that's okay. Maybe this will also help with moisture. I'm just mixing the perlite and the soil around just a little bit, and now I'm just showing you what I got out of this bag. What a big old harvest I received. I'm going to clean this soil up a little bit off the ground. I don't want to leave any soil if I can help it. I want to try to keep as much soil as I can in my bag. You all didn't see it, but there was actually a little bitty lethargic worm on the ground, so I just threw him back inside the bag. Now it's time to add some homemade leaf mold. This leaf mold I made over a year ago. I only had a little bit left, so I'm just going to place a few handfuls of this inside of that makeshift bag. Can you tell how pretty that was? Let me show you again. Look at that. That's all leaf matter. I'm just going to take a few handfuls and place it inside of that bag and toss it around a little bit so that I can loosen up that soil, I can fertilize that soil, and I can give any worms that will eventually live in that soil a little something to eat. Now I'm going to take my hand tool and just use it to move around the soil and mush around that leaf mold a little bit, kind of working it through so that it's not just sitting on the top of the soil. I am going to look to determine whether or not I need a little bit more, and if I do, I'm going to add a little bit more. I want this soil to be enriched so that when whatever I grow in it next will have an adequate amount of food so that it can grow nice and strong and give me a nice harvest. Here, I'm just placing a little bit more leaf mold because I feel like this bag can take a little bit more leaf mold. I love this little hand tool. I have a few of them. They work wonders. So now that I've mixed that leaf mold up inside the bag, I'm going to take some old spent soil that I fertilized earlier in the spring when I was cleaning out different pots, and I'm going to put that on the top of this bag to fill up the rest of the bag space. And once I do that, I'll use my tool again and mix it in. And if I feel I need any more, I'll start the process all over again by adding a few more handfuls of fertilized, refreshed soil. I'll be planting brassicas in this bag, so I'm doing my best to mix it well so that the next harvest that I get out of here will have enough to eat and it'll be nice and big and give me a great bounty. I'm going to top up this bag with this makeshift reused fertilized soil, and it'll sit until it's time for me to sow my fall seeds. This pot houses some corn that just did not make it. So I'm going to take my hand tool, loosen up the soil, and pull these stalks out, trying to leave as much soil behind as possible. And if there's soil on the root, I'm going to take my tool and just tap it off so that I don't lose that much soil. I'm going to take the stalks and toss them out. That is, toss them out into the compost bin. These are not going to go to waste in my garden. As you see here, I'm just tapping off as much soil as possible. You see, they do not have an extensive root system, so they could have lasted. This soil is relatively moist, but they were getting inconsistent water while I was away, so they didn't do well. As you can see, there's still some green here, but the tassels didn't do well at all. So if the tassels go brown, there's no way your corn is going to survive. As I begin to pull this stalk out, you see there's some green right there. That is some brassica. I think it might be bok choy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this clump and plant it in another part of the garden where I'm going to be sowing my fall seeds. Sorry about that, everybody. It's hard to be great. I had to answer the phone. I had a family member calling and I had to answer. You can't not answer when your family calls. So now, going back to getting this corn pulled out. So I'm just going to continue to tap off the soil and toss this stalk into the compost bin. I have one more to go, so let's get at it. Now that I have all that corn pulled out, I'm just going to pull out this excess death right here, these dead bits, and I'm going to salvage that brassica. We're going to plant that in another pot where it can get a little bit of shade while it establishes itself, and then we're going to move on to the next 2 grow bags that have corn in it. This pot will be used for spring bulbs. This is one of the 2 grow bags that I have. These 2 grow bags used to have a tremendous amount of corn, but I've had to systematically pull it all out. This one had 1 stalk left, and as you can see, the base is still green, but the tops is as brown can be, so it had to go. Corn is a heavy feeder, so I am going to fertilize this container before I plant anything in it. Here is the second grow bag of corn. As you see here, I only have 2 stalks in here. So I'm going to pull these stalks out just like I did the first grow bag. I'm going to fertilize the soil, and it's going to sit for a couple of days until I can get around to sowing for the fall. And if you see this root system right here, it is just as sparse as the last. Not a very dense root system. Now this root system surprised me a little bit. It looked like it was trying to root itself down as deeply as it could. It has 2 sections or 2 joints or 2 nodes where roots were coming out. Look at that. You see that node right there? And then there's a node up at the top. That's pretty interesting. And as you saw, it was green. So if it had more time and if it was being watered consistently, it probably would have done better. But again, I wasn't here, and so it is what it is. Here is where that little brassica is going to sit and live for quite some time. Here it's going to get a little bit of cover from the plant next to it. There's a big tomato plant here. I'm just picking off some debris off of the soil top. I'm going to use my hand trowel, pull the dirt back, plop it in, water it in, and let it do what it do. I'm not going to separate it. I'm going to let it sit here and grow as is, as it was already growing nicely in the big green pot as a clump. And hopefully allowing it to sit here under this tomato, allowing it to get some shade and give it some water, will give it a chance to grow up nice and big and strong. We shall see. Thanks for stopping by.